Are Real Madrid going to hijack the Zubimendi deal? That's what I want to talk about in this latest reaction here on the Goonerverse too, because reports came out last night, mainly I think from Spanish outlets, basically saying, yeah, that's what Madrid are trying to do. They're trying to get in and get that €60 million deal done, which would sort of meet the £51 million release clause that Arsenal is supposedly willing to meet. But this contradicts reports that we'd heard in January, wasn't it? And I remember, I'm not trying to do the whole I told you so thing, but I remember saying in that live stream, guys, let's just pour some cold water on it a little bit, because I don't think this is as signed, sealed and delivered as reports were making out. So what do we know? Let's cast our minds back to January. We heard that Arsenal were set to sign. That was the report from Sami Mokbel. Arsenal set to sign Martin Zubimendi. Now, I think maybe because of a bit of football manager lingo, and also very much the terminology, when you read it word for word, set to sign really makes it out that like Arsenal are getting this guy. It's just a case of we're signing him in the summer, so they need to iron out final details, but Zubimendi is coming to Arsenal. That was very much the feeling we were left with that initial report. Now, for the sake of balance, Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein came out and delivered it in a slightly more... let's say there's a touch more doubt to their reports, but they were saying it's very advanced. They didn't say it was all done. They didn't say he was definitely going to be an Arsenal player, but they were saying advanced talks, Arsenal pushing to get the deal done, and that they were very, very keen on signing Zubimendi. Now, at the time, I think we all still looked at it with a sense of, okay, great, but we want a forward, please. But at the same time, Partey and Jorginho are leaving this summer. We saw Jorginho out in Flamengo, didn't he? We saw him out in Brazil. You know, a feeling that he was having talks and negotiating and looking into what that next move was looking like for him. Hand of Ozil is saying, and you know, other reports are sort of confirming that there's no news of a Thomas Partey update. You know, there's no news of a Thomas Partey contract. It looks like he's going to be leaving. By the way, if you don't follow Hand of Ozil on X, formerly known as Twitter, definitely do. That is at Hand of Ozil, the only ITK I really follow, and for me has been really spot on with the news that he's been delivering. And yeah, and again, there was some doubts from people, me being one of them, about how concrete, how sealed this Zubimendi stuff was. So last night, news reports started to come through about 8-9 p.m. England time, that Zubimendi and Real Madrid, is a deal that could happen. And the thing we need to remember here is Ancelotti, we know, legendary manager, but Real Madrid go through them quite quickly. If Xabi Alonso is to end up at Real Madrid, and there's a feeling that he could, obviously used to play for them. The other feeling was that maybe Liverpool, but now they've got Arne Slot, of course, they appointed him last summer. And he wanted to do one more year at Leverkusen. So if he goes to Real Madrid, Zubimendi feels like the kind of midfielder he'd love to work with. And there's a lot of feeling and reports that Zubimendi would want to work with Xabi Alonso too. And Real Madrid is a big, big move, isn't it? It's a big... you don't get bigger than that. So unless he's quite literally signed the Arsenal contract and is waiting to just fly over on July 1st or whenever it is, I don't see a world in which Real Madrid couldn't hijack this deal. I think that's the reality of it. Arsenal, I think have tried to get ahead and tried to get this one locked down for the summer, probably knowing that there's more interest to come. But again, until he's sort of signed that contract and holding the shirt, I think the reality is Real Madrid could come in. If they match the release clause, then we're in big trouble. When you look at some of the big signs they've made, Mbappe and Trent, yes, big wages will go towards those players, but ultimately they're free transfers. So they've got some money to play with, for an incoming, and I think they could do the Zubimendi deal if they want. What I will say, though, is you never know. Arsenal might well have done enough business and, done enough of the business and done enough work to have got this sealed for the summer, and actually maybe Arteta's feeling relaxed about it. Real Madrid can attempt to hijack all they want and can get all this stuff out to the media, but the reality is maybe Zubimendi is committed to Arsenal and that move can come in 3-4 years' time for him maybe. So who knows? I think that's something important to remember. Real Madrid still have Tchouaméni, and okay, Camavinga's not quite a DM, he can play DM, but they've got someone like Tchouaméni there. So you've got to wonder from Real Madrid's perspective, or maybe Zubimendi's perspective, he's probably thinking, okay, cool, but am I even necessarily going to start week in, week out at Real Madrid? Apparently that was part of his thinking as to why he wasn't interested in the Man City move, because he was thinking, well, when Rodri's fit, I'm behind Rodri like I am for Spain. So that kind of gives him a clear run at Arsenal. If he comes in, he's our starting six. There's no question about that. But we're not the only club, and it's worth remembering this, we're not the only club that have been in this position with Zubimendi. Liverpool thought that they were very, very close to having a deal done. In fact, they thought it was pretty much done. David Ormsey, I think, had come out and said, and I covered all this in, really kind of in-depth live stream, looking at why we need to just, temper our expectations on the Zubimendi stuff, because I think the reports from David Ornstein were Liverpool now expect to sign Zubimendi. There was a feeling, but we think we've got our man, let's just iron out the final details, and it didn't go that way. So that's something for Arsenal to learn from. I've talked about that on the Goonerverse, but that's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on when it comes to trying to do this deal, because clearly Zubimendi is someone who is happy to kind of, and I don't begrudge him when I say this, and it's just the reality of how maybe him and his camp have done business. They're quite happy to go quite the distance with certain clubs, and maybe that's happening with multiple before ultimately making a final decision. That doesn't necessarily mean they're fully committed, whereas maybe other players don't really kind of go that distance in negotiations unless they're sure they definitely want to do that deal. So that's something to keep aware of too. Now, when it comes to the DMs for Arsenal, when it comes to essentially our situation with the sixes, Jorginho is going to go, Partey is going to go. I don't see one in which they change their minds now. I mean, apparently, I mentioned Hand of Ozil before. He's saying that Arteta wants to keep Ozil. Wants to keep Jorginho. Okay, I'm not really sure that's a wise move. I think we do need to reinvest in that area. And I think with Rice, Zubimendi, lewis-skelly can play in the six. Ben White could always play in the six. Marino could really play in the six too. I think you're covered in that position. So I wouldn't be looking to sign on players that we're not feeling like they can start week in, week out for us. Jorginho can start in a spell of games. Jorginho can start in particular games. He's been a very, very good squad player. I think for 12 minutes, done a great job. But I think we're looking now for that elevation in squad. And I think we're now looking for not 12 quality players, maybe 13. We're looking for 15, 16, 17. And then the rest to kind of make up the rest of the fluff of the squad. And I just think Jorginho, Partey's different. Partey, they're not entertaining contract negotiations at the moment. Jorginho seems to be the one that they are. I don't really see the need to keep Jorginho. I mean, I know he's doing his coaching badges, so maybe there's a temptation there. But I wouldn't. I would just, quite frankly, let the contracts run down and sort of rebuild in that six area, especially because I think Rice should be a six long term, but I just don't think that's what Arsenal are going to do. So I think Arsenal are in this situation where they need to spend a lot of money this summer. 50 million could go on Zubimendi. The other thing you could ask, right, is if, and it's an if, right, Newcastle fans, if you stumble across this video, right, this is an if. If we wanted, say, Isak for 130 million. If we wanted reportedly Emirates for 60, 70 million, because that's apparently something Burton wants to do. It wouldn't be 60, 70, it'd be more like 80, right? But let's say that's a deal Burton wants to do, reportedly he does. Then could you get a starting eight, a starting striker? We want to get a left winger. That might cost you 250 million, right? Let's say in a perfect world, Isak is 120. Let's say Guimaraes is 70, right? So you look, or 80, that's 200 million there. I'm playing a bit of Football Manager here, and that's my favourite phrase, but it's just to kind of make up a scenario here, excuse me. And so let's say you get left winger, right? Nico Williams, you pay his release clause, 50 million, right? That's 250. The thing is, you're looking at another 50 million on Zubimendi at this point. Could you actually go and get a starting six? Sorry, not a starting six, a backup six. Could you move, Rice to the six, have Guimaraes and Erdegaard as your midfield? It's a very, very good starting midfield. And then you've got Marino, and then you've got, Waneri. I still think we need someone else. But maybe you bring in now I'm trying to think outside the box, right? But you bring in a 20, 30 million pound number six, right? I don't know, João Gomez from Wolves. They'd want more than 20, 30 million. But you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about someone who maybe isn't at the top. Who's the guy from Palace? Decore. I mean, I don't know what they'd want. They probably want 60 million, right? Or they certainly would have back in the day. But maybe his value's gone down a little bit. Or maybe there's room to go get an Adam Wharton and actually put more towards that player. So maybe not Guimaraes, but maybe an Adam Wharton for 60 million. And then, you've got him and Rice who can both play as a six. You just get a younger sort of backup. Basically what Lokonga was 3 years ago, but, of a better quality, of a higher quality. I think if you do that, maybe that's a better balance for the needs of the squad. Because I think we need a 6 from the perspective of Partey and Jorginho leaving. But I don't think we need one from the perspective of building a perfect Arsenal starting 11. Because I actually think if you are, Rice holds that position anyway. So lots of thoughts there. Let me know, how does Arsenal summer look if we don't sign Zubimendi? Do you think we'll get him, or will Real Madrid hijack the deal? Really want to know your thoughts on this one. It looks like they're trying to. £51 million is the release clause. So quite frankly, whoever comes in and convinces the player, they're going to get them, because the deal is a pretty easy one to do from a pure putting up the money front side of things. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you in a bit.